The Clone Wars had transformed the Jedi Order from guardians of peace into reluctant generals, stretching their wisdom and discipline across thousands of battlefields scattered throughout the galaxy. Entire sectors burned beneath the endless struggle between the Galactic Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Clone troopers marched beneath the banners of the Republic while battle droids darkened the horizons of countless worlds. Every decision made inside the towering halls of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant echoed across millions of star systems. Every vision glimpsed through the Force hinted that an even darker future approached. Yet for all their mastery, for every prophecy preserved within ancient holocrons, for every mystery uncovered during 25,000 years of Jedi history, there remained one truth they had never imagined. The Force connected every living being inside their galaxy, but what if something arrived from beyond its reach? What if a warrior born beneath completely different laws of existence suddenly stepped into the heart of the Jedi Order carrying powers that neither Jedi nor Sith had ever witnessed? More importantly, what if that single arrival threatened to rewrite the fate of the Clone Wars before Darth Sidious could complete the greatest deception in galactic history? If you enjoy cinematic Star Wars what-if stories where legendary characters from other universes collide with the galaxy far, far away, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow Star Wars fans, comment below with the next crossover character you'd love to see enter the Star Wars universe. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another epic journey across the stars where impossible worlds become one. Coruscant never truly slept. From the gleaming Senate district to the industrial depths thousands of levels below the surface, trillions of lives moved through an endless rhythm of speeders, transports, factories, diplomatic missions, and military logistics. Above the Ecumenopolis, Republic cruisers arrived every hour carrying wounded clones from distant campaigns while fresh battalions departed almost immediately for another war zone. The Jedi Temple stood above it all like a monument to a fading era, its ancient spires rising into the morning light while meditation chambers remained filled with masters attempting to preserve calm within a galaxy rapidly surrendering to chaos. The Clone Wars had already lasted longer than anyone expected. Every victory demanded another sacrifice. Every triumph seemed temporary. Even Master Yoda sensed that events flowed toward a destination hidden behind a growing shadow that clouded the Force itself. Inside the council chamber, 12 Jedi Masters quietly considered reports arriving from battlefronts scattered across the Mid-Rim. General Kenobi continued pursuing Separatist fleets near Christophsis while Anakin Skywalker led another successful campaign farther along the Corellian Run. Mace Windu reviewed casualty projections with visible concern. Ki-Adi-Mundi questioned increasingly aggressive Separatist tactics. Shakti worried about Kamino's security after repeated attempts to sabotage clone production. Everything reflected the familiar rhythm of war. Yet beneath those discussions lingered something none of them wished to acknowledge openly. The Force had become strangely uncertain during recent weeks. Visions once vivid now dissolved into fragments. Premonitions contradicted one another. Meditation revealed echoes rather than clarity, as though unseen currents flowed beyond even the oldest Jedi teachings. Far beyond Coruscant, somewhere no Republic navigation computer could possibly identify, another conflict reached its own violent conclusion. A battlefield scarred by shattered mountains and rivers of molten stone trembled beneath impossible forces unleashed by shinobi whose names would one day become legends. Lightning split blackened skies. Crumbling cliffs collapsed beneath titanic impacts. Reality itself seemed strained by powers born not from midichlorians or the Force but from chakra flowing through bodies trained since childhood to weaponize every ounce of physical and spiritual energy they possessed. Among the smoke stood one warrior alone. Sasuke Uchiha breathed heavily as blood slowly dripped from cuts crossing his face and arms. His cloak hung in torn fragments after another battle that had pushed him beyond exhaustion. His Sharingan slowly rotated inside crimson eyes, still burning with determination despite every hardship he had endured. He had fought gods, monsters, and enemies capable of reshaping continents. Betrayal had become as familiar to him as victory. Every decision carried unbearable consequences. Every step forward demanded another sacrifice. Years of conflict had forged him into one of the strongest shinobi alive, but they had also left invisible scars that no healing technique could erase. Even now, standing amidst silence after another impossible battle, he felt no satisfaction. Only the quiet weight of survival. Then space fractured. Without warning, the air around Sasuke twisted inward. Blue-white energy spiraled across the ruined battlefield, forming a vortex unlike any ninjutsu he had ever encountered. His instincts reacted instantly. The Sharingan sharpened as every muscle prepared for attack. Yet there was no enemy. No chakra signature. No familiar technique. The distortion ignored every law governing his world. Gravity bent unpredictably while the ground itself shattered beneath invisible pressure. Even Sasuke's Rinnegan struggled to interpret what unfolded before him. The dimensional rupture exploded outward. Before he could evade it, impossible energy engulfed him completely. Thousands of light-years away, deep beneath the towering spires of the Jedi Temple, ancient force-sensitive crystals housed within forgotten meditation chambers simultaneously emitted brilliant flashes of blue light. Temple guardians rushed toward the disturbance while alarm systems activated throughout secure archives that had remained undisturbed for centuries. Jedi scholars abandoned fragile manuscripts as invisible waves rippled through stone corridors older than the Republic itself. Nothing attacked the temple. No separatist infiltrators breached its defenses. Instead, reality folded inward at the very center of the Grand Hall. Every Jedi inside the temple felt it. Younglings interrupted lightsaber practice simultaneously. Experienced knights paused. Mid-conversation, temple guards instinctively reached for their yellow lightsabers as the Force itself seemed to hesitate for the briefest instant. The sensation resembled neither the light nor the dark side. It was something entirely foreign. Something arriving from a place beyond every meditation, prophecy, or vision preserved within Jedi history. Mace Windu rose before anyone spoke. Master Yoda slowly opened his eyes. The Force did not warn them of danger. It simply stopped making sense. The polished marble floor cracked apart beneath an expanding sphere of shimmering blue energy. Ancient symbols carved by forgotten Jedi Masters glowed brilliantly before disappearing beneath impossible light. Temple guards formed defensive positions around the chamber while dozens of knights ignited lightsabers in perfect synchronization. Republic security forces outside the temple received emergency alerts reporting an unknown energy phenomenon at the heart of Coruscant's most secure location. Then the light vanished. A lone figure knelt at the center of the fractured floor. Silence consumed the chamber. Sasuke slowly lifted his head. His cloak remained torn from battle. His sword rested within immediate reach. Dust from another universe still clung to his boots. His breathing remained controlled despite the violent transition between realities. Instinctively, he surveyed every possible threat within seconds. Towering stone architecture unlike anything in the Hidden Leaf. Strange warriors dressed in flowing robes surrounding him. Elegant energy blades humming from metallic hilts instead of steel swords. Unknown symbols. Unknown language. Unknown world. Every survival instinct screamed that he had entered enemy territory. The Jedi reached exactly the same conclusion. Temple guards advanced first, disciplined yet restrained. None attacked immediately. Centuries of diplomatic tradition guided every movement. Unknown visitors deserved the opportunity for peaceful contact whenever possible. The Force encouraged patience. Violence without understanding had no place inside the temple. Sasuke interpreted their advance very differently. Years of betrayal had erased any instinct to trust unfamiliar authorities. Powerful organizations claiming noble intentions had repeatedly manipulated entire generations within his own world. He had learned long ago that hesitation often meant death. Without rising completely, his hand settled naturally upon the hilt of his chikudo while chakra quietly flowed through exhausted muscles preparing for combat. Several Jedi instantly noticed. The newcomer's posture revealed extraordinary discipline. Every movement minimized unnecessary effort. Every shift in balance prepared for lethal action. This was no frightened civilian. This was an elite warrior. Master Yoda slowly approached, his ancient expression calm despite the uncertainty surrounding them. Through the Force he attempted to sense the stranger's intentions as he had done countless times before with beings from across the galaxy. Usually emotions appeared immediately: fear, hope, anger, confusion, curiosity. Every living creature reflected itself through the Force. This one did not. Yoda frowned almost imperceptibly. He sensed life. He sensed intelligence. Yet the familiar tapestry connecting all beings seemed strangely incomplete. It resembled staring toward a brilliant star hidden behind impenetrable darkness. The being existed. The Force simply refused to reveal him. Mace Windu sensed the same impossibility. Around the chamber, experienced masters quietly exchanged uncertain glances. No Sith possessed such concealment. No known species displayed this absence. It violated everything they understood. Yoda attempted gentle communication, speaking slowly while allowing the Force to project calm. Translation protocols mattered little when empathy often transcended language itself. Countless first contacts throughout galactic history had begun exactly this way. Sasuke felt something press gently against his thoughts. Invisible. Subtle. Not hostile. Yet undeniably real. His eyes narrowed immediately. Genjutsu? Mental manipulation? Without conscious thought his chakra surged instinctively to disrupt foreign influence entering his mind, exactly as years of shinobi training demanded. The invisible sensation shattered before it could establish even the slightest foothold. Every Jedi nearby froze. The Force itself had been pushed away. Not resisted. Not blocked through conventional means. Rejected. Murmurs spread through the assembled knights. Temple guards tightened defensive formations. Sasuke slowly rose to his full height. His sword remained sheathed. His expression revealed neither panic nor aggression. Only relentless caution. Then one particularly anxious temple guard misunderstood the movement entirely. Believing the stranger prepared to attack the Grand Master, the young Jedi ignited his lightsaber and stepped forward. The brilliant blue blade filled the chamber with familiar light. Sasuke's instincts exploded into motion. His body pivoted effortlessly. One hand reached for his sword. The other formed the beginning of a hand seal. Lightning crackled faintly around his fingertips. Dozens of lightsabers ignited simultaneously throughout the chamber. Ancient stone walls reflected blue, green, and yellow illumination while the atmosphere shifted from uncertainty to imminent battle in less than a heartbeat. The Force swirled violently. Chakra surged to meet it. For one suspended moment, two completely different systems of power stared directly at one another across a few meters of polished stone. Neither understood the other. Neither intended surrender. Neither realized history itself balanced upon the next decision. Then Sasuke slowly released his sword hilt. The crackling lightning faded. He recognized overwhelming numbers. The Jedi recognized deliberate restraint. Combat did not begin. But trust had already become infinitely more difficult. Master Yoda stepped forward once again, studying the exhausted warrior with growing fascination rather than fear. This stranger carried immense discipline, profound grief, extraordinary strength, and burdens deeper than many Jedi Masters. Yet every attempt to glimpse his future dissolved into emptiness. Normally the Force revealed countless branching paths extending before every living being. Here there was nothing. No destiny. No prophecy. No possible future. Only an impenetrable void surrounding the battle-worn shinobi standing inside the temple. At that exact moment, Sasuke instinctively activated his Sharingan. Crimson eyes opened fully. 3 black tomo began rotating slowly. The ancient masters collectively felt something they had never experienced before. The newcomer's eyes were looking back into the Force itself. And for the first time in centuries, Grand Master Yoda quietly realized that he could not see what came next. The silence that settled over the highest chamber of the Jedi Temple carried a different weight than any the Council had experienced throughout the Clone Wars. Outside its towering transparent steel windows, Coruscant remained alive with endless streams of speeders weaving between glittering skyscrapers, while countless Republic transports descended toward military landing platforms carrying clone officers, senators, diplomats, and refugees from worlds scarred by war. The galaxy continued moving as though nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet within the temple, every Jedi Master present understood that history had quietly shifted beneath their feet. The young warrior who stood at the center of the chamber represented something the Force itself refused to explain. For thousands of years, every mystery eventually revealed its outline through meditation. Every great danger echoed across the currents of destiny. Every life existed as a luminous thread within the Force's endless tapestry. Sasuke Uchiha alone appeared to stand outside that tapestry entirely. Master Yoda remained seated with his eyes half closed, searching once more for even the faintest ripple that might reveal the stranger's future. He found nothing. It was not darkness concealing light, nor chaos masking order. It was absence. To the ancient Jedi Grandmaster, it felt disturbingly similar to gazing into a place where the Force itself simply did not exist. That realization unsettled him more than the countless Sith plots that had emerged during the Clone Wars. The dark side always possessed intention. It could be resisted, understood, and ultimately confronted. Sasuke's existence presented no familiar pattern. He had arrived from beyond the known galaxy carrying tremendous power that operated according to laws entirely foreign to Jedi understanding. Sasuke observed the council with the same guarded expression he reserved for dangerous enemies. Every instinct developed through years of surviving assassins, rogue shinobi, and monstrous opponents warned him never to trust powerful organizations that claimed noble intentions. He had already witnessed villages that preached peace while manipulating children into becoming living weapons. He had watched leaders justify cruelty in the name of stability. The robes worn by the Jedi might have appeared calm and disciplined, but beneath their composed expressions he recognized the same uncertainty he had seen in countless military commanders. They feared what they could not control. Although the confrontation inside the temple had eased after the initial shock of his arrival, no one mistook the atmosphere for genuine peace. Temple guards quietly remained stationed beyond every entrance, their golden masks hiding disciplined vigilance while hands rested near the hilts of their double-bladed lightsabers. Medical droids waited nearby should violence erupt without warning. Even the younger Jedi stationed throughout the temple whispered among themselves after rumors spread that a mysterious warrior had somehow resisted the perception of the Force itself. Stories traveled quickly within the Order, especially during wartime, and already exaggerated tales described a stranger immune to Jedi powers, capable of summoning unnatural crimson eyes that pierced every deception. The council had spent hours asking careful questions. Sasuke answered only those he believed necessary. He explained fragments of his world's existence without revealing everything he knew. He spoke of nations hidden behind forests, mountains, deserts, and mist. He described shinobi trained from childhood to master chakra, complete impossible missions, and protect their villages through strength and sacrifice. He mentioned the existence of tailed beasts whose power rivaled natural disasters and spoke briefly of clans whose bloodlines granted extraordinary abilities. Yet every answer only deepened the mystery. None of it resembled anything preserved within the Jedi archives. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi listened with quiet fascination rather than suspicion. Throughout his years as a Jedi general, he had encountered cultures whose customs differed dramatically from those of Coruscant. Some civilizations viewed technology as sacred. Others rejected it entirely. Entire species perceived time differently than humans. Compared with those experiences, another distant civilization possessing unfamiliar forms of energy manipulation seemed extraordinary but not impossible. What unsettled Obi-Wan was not Sasuke's description of chakra. It was the absolute conviction in the young man's voice whenever he described betrayal, vengeance, and loss. Those emotions were carried not as temporary burdens but as permanent companions. Anakin Skywalker noticed the same thing. Unlike many on the council, Anakin did not first see an impossible anomaly or a potential threat. He saw another young warrior who had survived more than anyone his age should ever endure. The scars were different, but the weight behind Sasuke's eyes felt strangely familiar. Anakin recognized someone who trusted action more readily than words, Someone who expected betrayal before compassion, someone whose greatest battles seemed to exist within rather than around him. That understanding formed almost immediately, surprising even Anakin himself. When the council temporarily adjourned to review the growing mountain of censor reports surrounding the dimensional rupture, Obi-Wan quietly requested that Anakin accompany Sasuke through portions of the temple. Officially, it allowed the newcomer to observe Jedi culture under supervision. Unofficially, Obi-Wan hoped his former Padawan's ability to connect with unconventional individuals might reveal truths the council could not uncover through formal questioning. Neither warrior welcomed the arrangement. They walked through vast meditation halls where sunlight streamed through towering crystal windows, casting shimmering reflections across polished stone floors worn smooth by generations of Jedi. Younglings practiced basic lightsaber exercises beneath patient instructors while service droids moved silently between classrooms. The temple remained remarkably peaceful despite the galaxy-wide war unfolding beyond its walls. Sasuke watched everything with sharp, calculating attention, mentally identifying entrances, defensive positions, observation points, and escape routes without conscious effort. Years of shinobi training made such analysis instinctive. Anakin noticed. "You don't stop looking for exits," he remarked casually as they overlooked one of the temple's expansive gardens. Sasuke didn't deny it. "A habit. A useful one? It keeps people alive." The answer lingered between them. Anakin leaned against a stone railing overlooking Coruscant's endless skyline. "The Jedi aren't your enemies. I've heard similar things before." There was no anger in Sasuke's reply, only experience. Anakin understood more than he cared to admit. Conversation gradually shifted from cautious observation toward reluctant honesty. Sasuke described a childhood shaped by relentless training and devastating loss without revealing every detail surrounding his clan or his brother. He spoke of pursuing strength because weakness invited tragedy. He explained that mercy without power accomplished nothing. Anakin listened in thoughtful silence, recognizing echoes of his own fears beneath unfamiliar circumstances. In return, Anakin spoke of the Clone Wars, of commanding thousands of clone soldiers whose lives depended upon impossible battlefield decisions, of watching planets burn because negotiations arrived too late. He admitted that the Jedi often struggled to balance their ideals against the brutal necessities of war. Sasuke found that admission more convincing than every formal speech delivered by the council combined. At least this Jedi acknowledged imperfection. Across the temple, however, other conversations painted a far darker picture. Within a secure council chamber, Mace Windu addressed the assembled masters with unmistakable urgency. "We cannot ignore what has happened." No one disagreed. "The Force reveals nothing about him. We cannot anticipate his choices. We cannot determine whether his intentions remain peaceful or hostile. Every advantage the Jedi possess in understanding future possibilities simply ends." Kadimundi folded his hands thoughtfully. "You believe that alone justifies detention?" "I believe ignorance during wartime is dangerous." Shakti shook her head slightly. "We have encountered cultures whose relationship with the Force differed greatly from our own." "Different," Windu answered, "is not the same as absent." The distinction silenced the chamber. Even Yoda remained contemplative. The Grand Master finally spoke in his slow, measured cadence. "Fear, careful we must be. Unknown this path is. But danger, fear itself becomes." Windu respected Yoda beyond measure, yet his concerns remained unchanged. "If the Sith discover him first." "They will," Obi-Wan interrupted quietly upon returning to the chamber. Every master looked toward him. "Whether today or tomorrow, they will. The question is whether he believes we offer trust or imprisonment." The council understood the implication. Attempting to control Sasuke through force might guarantee exactly the conflict they hoped to avoid. Elsewhere inside the temple, Jedi scholars continued examining recordings captured during Sasuke's arrival. Every frame revealing the Crimson Sharingan underwent microscopic analysis. Medical specialists compared chakra signatures against midi-chlorian readings collected from every known species. The results bordered on impossible. Sasuke possessed normal biological indicators associated with life, Yet the usual interaction between living cells and the Force remained dramatically diminished. His body functioned perfectly. His extraordinary abilities clearly drew upon immense internal energy. Yet that energy appeared fundamentally independent of the Force. The discovery spread quietly through senior ranks of the Order. Some considered it miraculous. Others found it deeply unsettling. If one civilization could evolve entirely outside the Force's influence, what did that imply about everything the Jedi believed regarding life itself? The philosophical implications became almost as troubling as the military ones. Unknown to anyone within the temple, another observer had already begun asking the same questions. Far beneath the glittering skyline of Coruscant, hidden within chambers accessible only through layers of deception, Chancellor Palpatine dismissed his aides for what appeared to be routine meditation. Security protocols sealed every entrance. Surveillance systems redirected themselves according to carefully prepared schedules. Once absolute privacy settled across the chamber, the warm expression worn before the Senate dissolved into something infinitely colder. Darth Sidious reached into the dark side. He had sensed the disturbance the instant reality fractured inside the Jedi Temple. At first he assumed the event represented another unpredictable fluctuation caused by the growing imbalance surrounding the Clone Wars. Yet every attempt to perceive the newcomer yielded only fragments. A warrior wrapped in grief. Eyes burning crimson. Power unlike anything preserved within Sith teachings. Most disturbing of all, the future surrounding the stranger remained clouded in ways Sidious had never experienced. For decades, he had manipulated galactic events with breathtaking precision. Every senator possessed predictable ambitions. Every Jedi followed familiar principles. Every Separatist leader danced according to carefully constructed lies. Even Count Dooku believed himself indispensable while unknowingly serving as another expendable instrument. Now a single unknown variable threatened that perfect design. Sidious disliked unknown variables. He quietly accessed encrypted intelligence channels unavailable even to Republic intelligence. Reports concerning the temple incident flowed across his private terminal. Witness descriptions, sensor analyses, medical observations, security assessments. Each document only strengthened his curiosity. No recorded Force signature. Combat capabilities beyond conventional expectations. Psychological profile incomplete. Potentially hostile. Potentially recruitable. Sidious smiled. If the Jedi feared what they could not understand, perhaps that fear could be cultivated. If this outsider carried resentment toward authority, perhaps resentment could become opportunity. If he possessed power beyond the Force itself, then perhaps he deserved personal attention. The Sith Lord quietly erased several long-standing operational priorities from his immediate schedule. Planned political maneuvers involving the banking clan could wait. Certain Separatist offensives no longer required direct supervision. Even aspects of Count Dooku's ongoing campaigns became temporarily secondary. For the first time in many years, Darth Sidious intended to investigate someone personally. High above, inside the Jedi Temple, Sasuke stood alone on a balcony overlooking the endless lights of Coruscant. The city stretched beyond the horizon like an artificial galaxy built upon a single world, beautiful yet strangely lifeless compared with the forests and mountains of home. He still had no idea whether he would remain with the Jedi, disappear into this unfamiliar civilization, or pursue another path entirely. He did not notice the subtle darkness gathering elsewhere across the planet. But somewhere beneath the towers of Coruscant, the most dangerous man in the galaxy had already abandoned decades of careful routine. Darth Sidious had decided that the mysterious shinobi from another universe would not remain beyond his reach for long. The news never reached the public, yet it spread through the hidden arteries of the galaxy with astonishing speed. Long before senators whispered about an unidentified outsider inside the Jedi Temple, long before Republic intelligence completed its first classified reports, information had already begun flowing through encrypted criminal networks, pirate relays, corporate espionage channels, and Sith communication webs that existed beneath the surface of galactic civilization. Every major intelligence organization understood the same terrifying fact. Something had entered the Clone Wars that no archive could identify, no Jedi could explain, and no strategist had prepared for. In a conflict where every advantage could determine the fate of trillions, the mysterious warrior called Sasuke Uchiha instantly became the galaxy's most valuable unknown asset. Inside the Jedi Temple, however, Sasuke had little interest in becoming anyone's weapon. His temporary stay under Jedi protection continued, but the walls of the temple felt less like a sanctuary and more like a carefully disguised prison. The Jedi had not restrained him physically, nor had they threatened him outright, yet he could sense the constant observation surrounding him. Temple guards rotated outside every chamber assigned to him. Surveillance droids quietly monitored every corridor he entered. Masters spoke politely while measuring every word. They claimed to seek understanding, but Sasuke recognized caution disguised as diplomacy. He had lived among shinobi villages long enough to recognize when an organization feared what it could not control. Rather than confronting the Jedi directly, Sasuke chose to observe. During the following days he wandered portions of the temple accompanied only loosely by assigned escorts, studying everything with the patient awareness that had once allowed him to survive encounters against enemies far stronger than himself. He watched younglings practicing with training sabers under instructors who genuinely cared about their students. He observed healers tending wounded clone troopers returning from distant battlefields. Archivists spent endless hours preserving knowledge accumulated over thousands of years. Much of what he witnessed appeared sincere. The Jedi were not hypocrites pretending to serve peace while secretly celebrating war. Yet contradictions revealed themselves everywhere. The temple overflowed with generals dressed as monks. Meditation chambers existed beside military briefing rooms. Children studied compassion while clone officers discussed planetary invasions only a few corridors away. The Order preached emotional balance even as it commanded an army bred solely for conflict. To Sasuke, the contradictions felt painfully familiar. His own world had once trained children to become protectors while simultaneously preparing them to kill. Peace purchased through endless warfare had never truly been peace. One afternoon, Anakin Skywalker accompanied Sasuke through one of Coruscant's massive observation platforms overlooking military traffic arriving from the Mid-Rim. Hundreds of Republic vessels descended toward orbital docks while clone transports ferried reinforcements to newly opened campaigns. The entire skyline reflected a civilization completely committed to sustaining war. "They told me the Jedi were peacekeepers," Sasuke said quietly. "They were. Anakin's expression tightened. The war changed everything. Sasuke continued watching the endless procession of military craft. "In my world, every generation believed war was temporary." Anakin glanced toward him. "It never was." The honesty surprised them both. Unlike many Jedi, Anakin rarely hid uncomfortable truths beneath philosophy. Perhaps because he had never fully embraced the emotional detachment expected by the Council, he possessed fewer illusions regarding the Republic's current state. He had watched political compromises grow uglier each passing year. He had witnessed senators profit from prolonged conflict while clone soldiers died by the thousands defending worlds those same politicians barely remembered. The Republic remained worth protecting in his eyes, but he no longer believed it deserved blind faith. That realization resonated with Sasuke more deeply than Anakin intended. Across the galaxy, Count Dooku reached remarkably similar conclusions from a far different perspective. Within his fortress on Sereno, holographic intelligence reports illuminated the dim chamber where the former Jedi Master studied every fragment of information gathered concerning the unknown shinobi. Unlike many Separatist commanders who viewed the newcomer merely as another potential military asset, Dooku approached the mystery intellectually. He had spent decades understanding how extraordinary individuals altered history. Darth Sidious himself had once recognized Dooku's ambition and transformed it into a weapon against the Republic. Now another gifted warrior had emerged from beyond known space. The reports fascinated him. No force signature, unknown energy system, visual abilities capable of predicting movement, combat effectiveness estimated beyond elite Jedi standards. Dooku quietly dismissed several inaccurate assumptions made by his intelligence officers. They viewed Sasuke as another mercenary to be purchased or intimidated. Dooku saw something entirely different. Everything within the psychological profile suggested an independent survivor whose loyalty belonged to no institution. Such individuals rarely submitted willingly to authority. Yet they often embraced causes aligned with their personal convictions. Perhaps, Dooku thought, this warrior did not require manipulation. Perhaps he merely required the truth. Elsewhere, bounty hunters smelled opportunity. Within the criminal underworld, enormous contracts circulated without revealing their true employer. The target's description remained deliberately vague. Young human male. Black hair. Unknown abilities. Last confirmed location, Jedi Temple, Coruscant. The reward exceeded anything offered since the beginning of the Clone Wars. Cad Bane immediately declined. Not because the payment lacked appeal, but because even he understood that kidnapping someone from the Jedi Temple bordered on suicide. Aura Singh considered the contract before deciding the risk outweighed the credits. Several ambitious hunters accepted anyway. For them, desperation often defeated wisdom. Meanwhile, General Grievous received entirely different orders. Rather than attacking Republic supply lines as originally planned, the Separatists Supreme Commander redirected reconnaissance units toward Coruscant itself. Officially, they searched for weaknesses surrounding Jedi defensive infrastructure. Unofficially, Dooku wanted information concerning the temple's mysterious guest before the Republic understood his true value. Even Darth Sidious quietly expanded his own surveillance network. Republic intelligence unknowingly answered to him. Certain Senate aides unknowingly served him. Entire corporate organizations unknowingly financed his operations. Within days, every meaningful report regarding Sasuke reached the Sith Lord before it reached anyone else. Yet despite overwhelming resources, Sidious encountered an unfamiliar frustration. The young shinobi refused to behave predictably. Instead of seeking influence, Sasuke sought information. Instead of attempting escape, he explored. Instead of displaying arrogance, he remained patient. Every profile produced contradictory conclusions. Sidious found uncertainty irritating. Inside the temple, another revelation quietly reshaped Sasuke's understanding of the galaxy. The clone army. Initially, he assumed the armored soldiers represented ordinary volunteers serving the Republic. Then Jedi historians explained their origin. Genetically engineered. Artificially accelerated aging, conditioned for absolute obedience, created specifically for war. Sasuke listened without interruption, though inwardly the explanation disturbed him profoundly. Entire lives manufactured solely to fight someone else's political conflict. The Republic celebrated democracy while depending upon an army that never chose its own existence. Later that evening, he encountered Captain Rex preparing to depart alongside the 501st Legion. The clone commander greeted him respectfully despite widespread rumors surrounding the mysterious outsider. Sasuke observed the disciplined efficiency with which the clones prepared equipment, coordinated deployments, and checked one another's armor before departure. No fear. No hesitation. Only professionalism. "You volunteered?" Sasuke asked. Rex smiled faintly. "We were made for this." The answer lingered long after the transport departed. Made for this. Not born. Once again Sasuke found himself reminded of his own world, where children had often been shaped into weapons before understanding what peace truly meant. Perhaps galaxies differed less than appearances suggested. Later, Obi-Wan located Sasuke inside one of the temple gardens overlooking Coruscant's endless skyline. "You've been asking difficult questions. I've been receiving interesting answers." Obi-Wan smiled knowingly. "You've discovered we're imperfect. I discovered your Republic survives because soldiers engineered for obedience fight wars your politicians created." Obi-Wan's expression became thoughtful rather than defensive. "You're not entirely wrong." That admission surprised Sasuke. "You aren't going to defend it?" "I'll defend the people trying to make it better." It was a distinction Sasuke had rarely encountered. Before either could continue, temple alarms briefly activated. Not an attack. An unauthorized shuttle had entered restricted airspace before being intercepted. The pilot carried forged diplomatic credentials. Further investigation revealed something more alarming. Hidden within the vessel were advanced surveillance systems specifically configured to monitor Sasuke's movements. The pilot committed suicide before interrogation. No identifying records remained. Only one encrypted transmission survived partial destruction. The message originated from Sereno. Dooku had found him. Hours later, another unexpected development unfolded. Through channels neither Republic intelligence nor Jedi surveillance fully understood, Sasuke received an invitation. No threats. No demands. Only coordinates. A neutral location. One meeting. Complete privacy guaranteed. The sender identified himself simply. Count Dooku. Against the advice of nearly every Jedi Master, Sasuke chose to go. The rendezvous occurred aboard an abandoned diplomatic station drifting near the edge of Republic-controlled space, carefully selected because neither Republic nor Separatist forces maintained permanent presence nearby. Hidden security measures confirmed no immediate ambush. Dooku arrived alone. The elderly Count carried himself with calm confidence rather than menace. He studied Sasuke with genuine curiosity. I expected someone older. I expected another politician. Dooku chuckled softly. A reasonable disappointment. Unlike the Jedi, Dooku wasted little time discussing philosophy. Instead, he spoke about corruption. The Republic's corporate manipulation. Senators purchasing influence. The clone army's engineered existence. The endless war secretly benefiting powerful interests. Everything Sasuke had already begun discovering for himself. Then Dooku revealed something even more provocative. The Jedi believe they serve peace. The Republic believes it serves justice. The Sith believe they control destiny. His voice lowered. They are all wrong. Sasuke remained silent. Dooku's gaze sharpened. You owe none of them your loyalty. For several long moments, only the quiet hum of the station surrounded them. Then Count Dooku made an offer capable of changing galactic history forever. Help me destroy the Republic. His expression remained utterly composed. And afterward, we shall overthrow the Sith together. The invitation from Count Dooku lingered in Sasuke's thoughts long after he returned to Coruscant. Unlike the manipulations of Orochimaru or the endless lies that had surrounded the Uchiha massacre, Dooku had offered neither false promises nor emotional manipulation. Instead, he had presented uncomfortable truths. The Republic was corrupt. The Jedi had become soldiers despite preaching peace. The Sith hid within the very government they claimed to oppose. Yet the Count himself remained a willing architect of a war that consumed entire worlds. Sasuke had spent enough of his life navigating deception to recognize that truth spoken by a liar remained truth nonetheless. That realization only deepened his distrust of every major power in the galaxy. The Jedi Council immediately questioned him about the encounter. Mace Windu demanded precise details while Obi-Wan listened carefully for anything that might reveal the Separatists' intentions. Yoda remained unusually quiet, watching Sasuke with eyes that seemed less interested in Dooku's proposal than in Sasuke's reaction to it. When Sasuke finally admitted that Dooku had proposed destroying both the Republic and the Sith, an uneasy silence settled over the council chamber. Most expected outrage. Instead, Yoda slowly closed his eyes. Temptation, the ancient master murmured, cleverly disguised as freedom. Sasuke folded his arms. Freedom isn't the part one questioned. Every master looked toward him. I questioned why every powerful organization believes it deserves to rule everyone else. The observation lingered heavily inside the chamber. No one immediately answered because no simple answer existed. The Republic genuinely believed its democratic system protected civilization. The Jedi sincerely believed their guidance preserved peace. Even the Separatists claimed they fought for independence from corruption. Every side possessed ideals worth respecting while simultaneously committing acts that contradicted those ideals. Sasuke found the contradictions strangely familiar. His own world had been built upon villages claiming to protect peace through endless preparation for war. Rather than continue philosophical debate, the council chose another approach. If they could not fully understand Sasuke's abilities through discussion, perhaps they could learn through observation. Training was arranged. Not imprisonment, not interrogation. A controlled exchange between experienced Jedi Masters and the mysterious shinobi whose abilities continued defying every established understanding of the Force. The temple's largest combat chamber became the setting for what many younger Jedi quietly considered the most fascinating training exercise in generations. Circular observation platforms filled with instructors, knights, Padawans, temple guards, and researchers eager to witness the impossible newcomer in action. Even Jedi historians arrived carrying recording equipment, determined to preserve every detail for the archives. Sasuke stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Across from him waited Obi-Wan Kenobi. The duel began without hostility. Obi-Wan ignited his blue lightsaber in one smooth motion, adopting the elegant defensive posture of Form 3, Sorisu. The stance emphasized patience, precision, and conservation of movement, allowing experienced practitioners to survive against overwhelming assaults through flawless defense rather than reckless aggression. Sasuke slowly drew his Chikudo. No chakra flowed yet. No Sharingan. Only observation. Obi-Wan advanced first. His opening strikes displayed extraordinary economy of motion, every movement flowing naturally into the next. To an ordinary observer, the blade seemed impossibly fast. It was merely different. Steel met plasma with a shower of brilliant sparks as Sasuke deflected the first strike. The second came almost instantly from another angle. He avoided it with minimal movement before counterattacking toward Obi-Wan's shoulder. The Jedi Master parried effortlessly. Around the chamber, murmurs spread among observing knights. Neither combatant had committed fully. Both were studying. Obi-Wan quickly realized something unusual. Most opponents reacted after his blade moved. Sasuke reacted before the motion fully developed. The timing resembled Jedi precognition without actually being force-assisted. Interesting. Obi-Wan gradually increased speed. His lightsaber became a brilliant wheel of blue energy, each attack flowing seamlessly into another. Sasuke responded by matching footwork rather than blade speed alone. Every dodge positioned him perfectly for the following strike, conserving energy while denying Obi-Wan any decisive opening. Watching from above, Anakin leaned forward. He's reading body movement. Aayla Secura nodded. Almost before it happens. No, Mace Windu corrected quietly. He's reading intent. The distinction mattered. Jedi precognition allowed them to glimpse brief moments into the future through the Force itself. Sasuke accomplished something remarkably similar through observations so refined that microscopic muscle movements, shifts in balance, breathing rhythm, and eye focus revealed attacks fractions of seconds before execution. Different path. Similar result. Then Sasuke activated the Sharingan. Crimson eyes illuminated the chamber. 3 Tomo rotated smoothly within each iris. An audible wave of surprise spread through the spectators. Immediately the duel changed. Obi-Wan accelerated again. This time his attacks became nearly impossible for ordinary beings to perceive. Yet Sasuke moved with startling efficiency, his blade intercepting strikes almost effortlessly. For the first time in years, Obi-Wan felt his own precognition colliding with another predictive system. The Force warned him where Sasuke intended to attack. The Sharingan predicted exactly how Obi-Wan would respond. Prediction met prediction. Future met anticipation. Each combatant continuously adapted faster than either system alone should have allowed. The duel became less about speed than about who could revise expectations first. Neither held lasting advantage. Watching from the council platform, Yoda whispered almost to himself. Mirror reflections. Kyarimundi frowned. Master? The Force shows possibility. Yoda continued watching carefully. His eyes show certainty. The distinction fascinated everyone present. After nearly 20 minutes, Obi-Wan voluntarily disengaged. Both warriors lowered their weapons simultaneously. No victor declared. Only understanding gained. The recordings immediately entered restricted archive. Classification. During the following weeks, Sasuke trained against multiple Jedi specialists. Then Dralig, the Temple Battle Master, introduced him to every classical lightsaber form. Rather than teaching him to become a Jedi, Dralig sought comparative understanding between lightsaber combat and shinobi swordsmanship. Sasuke absorbed unfamiliar techniques with astonishing speed, adapting defensive rotations, foot placement, and timing into his own natural style without abandoning the foundations that had carried him through countless battles. His Sharingan copied countless movements almost instantly. Yet copying proved insufficient. A lightsaber differed fundamentally from any blade Sasuke had previously wielded. Its weight distribution barely resembled conventional steel. Its cutting properties punished even tiny mistakes. Every adjustment required genuine mastery rather than simple imitation. Dralig found himself increasingly impressed. You learn faster than nearly anyone I've instructed. I've had good teachers. And difficult enemies. Sasuke's expression remained unreadable. They're usually the same people. Meanwhile, Jedi researchers focused upon a different mystery. The Jedi archives contained records spanning tens of thousands of years. Somewhere within that unimaginable collection might exist references explaining visitors unaffected by the Force. Master Jocasta Nu personally led the investigation. Ancient star maps. Forgotten expedition journals. Republic exploration records. Pre-Republic mythology. Most revealed nothing useful. Until one forgotten holocron surfaced from an archive untouched for centuries. Its creator had been an explorer during the earliest expansion beyond the core worlds. The fragmented recording described rumors encountered among civilizations living near the unknown regions. Not confirmed history. Merely persistent legends. Legends speaking of travelers arriving from the sea beyond stars. Beings who possessed extraordinary powers unrelated to the Force. Individuals impossible to perceive through conventional Force meditation. The records ended abruptly. No conclusions. No surviving evidence. Only warnings that such visitors vanished as mysteriously as they appeared. The discovery unsettled the council. For the first time, Sasuke's existence possessed historical echoes. Perhaps he was not unique. Perhaps history itself contained forgotten chapters. As speculation spread through scholarly circles, practical training continued. This time Anakin insisted upon facing Sasuke himself. Unlike Obi-Wan, Anakin fought aggressively from the opening exchange. His Form V lightsaber style emphasized overwhelming offense, powerful counterattacks, and relentless pressure. Brilliant blue arcs illuminated the chamber as strike after strike crashed toward Sasuke. The Sharingan tracked everything. But something fascinated Sasuke almost immediately. Anakin's emotions. Unlike most Jedi, Skywalker fought with passion rather than detachment. Determination. Concern. Frustration. Everything flowed directly into his movements. The resemblance to Naruto startled Sasuke more than he expected. Different man. Different world. Same refusal to surrender. The realization disrupted his concentration just enough for Anakin's blade to graze his sleeve. A tiny mistake. Yet enough to remind Sasuke that admiration created vulnerability. The duel ended moments later in another respectful draw. Afterward, Anakin laughed. I almost had you. Sasuke looked at the scorched fabric. You almost did. Their mutual respect quietly deepened. Unfortunately, not everyone welcomed Sasuke's growing acceptance within the temple. Several masters remained deeply concerned. Mace Windu most of all. He requested one final evaluation. Not a duel. A controlled mental examination. If Sasuke's mind truly remained resistant to Force influence, the council required certainty. Inside a secluded meditation chamber, Windu faced Sasuke alone. I won't harm you. I know. The purpose is observation. Sasuke simply nodded. Mace gently reached through the Force. Not aggressively. Only enough to influence perception. The same subtle mental technique Jedi commonly employed to calm frightened civilians or communicate more effectively during negotiations. A standard Jedi mind trick. It should have been effortless. Instead, nothing happened. Sasuke felt the invisible pressure touch his consciousness before sliding away like water across polished stone. His expression never changed. Mace frowned slightly. Again he reached deeper. Again the Force encountered inexplicable resistance. Not active defense. Not counterattack. Simply absence. As though the mental pathways normally influenced by the Force did not exist. Watching through concealed observation windows, the council exchanged uneasy glances. Impossible. Then Sasuke decided to experiment. If the Force could reach into minds, could Genjutsu reach into theirs? Their eyes met. For one brief instant, Crimson Tomo rotated silently. The chamber vanished. Mace Windu suddenly found himself standing alone beneath an endless blood-red sky while invisible shadows whispered from every direction. The illusion lasted barely 3 seconds. Yet when it ended, the greatest living master of Vapad had taken one involuntary step backward. Silence consumed the chamber. The impossible had happened. For the very first time, Sasuke Uchiha had successfully placed one of the most powerful Jedi Masters in the galaxy under Genjutsu. The revelation that Sasuke Uchiha could place one of the Republic's greatest Jedi Masters under an illusion without relying upon the Force spread across Coruscant faster than the Jedi Council could suppress it. Although the Temple immediately classified every recording of the encounter, secrets rarely remained hidden during the Clone Wars. Clone officers whispered about the mysterious warrior whose crimson eyes could challenge Jedi precognition. Senators quietly questioned intelligence agencies about rumors of a Force-blind assassin. Merchants overheard fragments of conversations inside military docking bays. Within days, fragments of truth escaped Coruscant aboard commercial freighters, diplomatic couriers, smugglers, and intercepted military transmissions. By the time the information reached the Outer Rim, the story had transformed into legend. Somewhere in the Republic lived a warrior capable of defeating Jedi without possessing a single midichlorian. Whether the rumors exaggerated reality no longer mattered. Across the galaxy, every organization that thrived on opportunity suddenly wanted the same prize. The Clone Wars had already created the greatest black market in galactic history. Entire planetary economies revolved around stolen military hardware, contraband bacta, intercepted hyperspace routes, and intelligence sold to the highest bidder. Criminal syndicates had grown rich exploiting the chaos while governments exhausted themselves fighting open battles. Into that delicate balance entered something completely unprecedented. Sasuke was not merely another powerful combatant. He represented unknown biology, unknown combat techniques, unknown energy systems, and perhaps the first living proof that the Force was not the only path to extraordinary power. For syndicates obsessed with leverage, such a discovery was beyond priceless. Deep within the glittering towers of Coruscant's criminal underworld, leaders of Black Sun convened in absolute secrecy. Holographic projections illuminated an enormous tactical chamber as reports from dozens of informants painted an increasingly fascinating picture. The mysterious newcomer possessed reflexes rivaling Jedi Masters. He manipulated enemies through visual illusions impossible to explain through conventional Force techniques. He had survived Count Dooku's recruitment attempt, resisted Jedi interrogation, and remained politically independent despite overwhelming pressure from every major faction. Black Sun's Vigo leaders immediately recognized what the Republic failed to appreciate. Sasuke was not a weapon waiting to be controlled. He was an independent variable capable of disrupting every established balance of power. Rather than killing him, Black Sun proposed something far more profitable. They intended to recruit him with unrestricted resources, intelligence networks spanning thousands of systems, and enough credits to purchase entire planetary governments. Elsewhere, the Hutt cartel reached an entirely different conclusion. On Enel Huda, enormous crime lords listened patiently as bounty brokers summarized everything known about the Uchiha. The Hutts cared little about philosophical questions concerning the Force. They cared about profit. If rumors proved accurate, possession of Sasuke would dramatically increase their influence over every faction participating in the Clone Wars. The Republic might pay fortunes simply to keep him away from the Separatists. Dooku would almost certainly offer advanced warships in exchange for cooperation. Even neutral systems would compete for access to such an extraordinary warrior. The Hutts therefore announced one of the largest private bounties in recent galactic history. Capture Sasuke alive. Deliver him unharmed. Payment would exceed the combined value of dozens of successful Jedi hunts. The announcement spread through bounty hunter circles like wildfire. Cantinas that usually buzzed with conversations about local contracts now discussed nothing except the mysterious shinobi from beyond known space. Hunters who had spent careers pursuing politicians or rogue smugglers suddenly abandoned existing missions. Some believed Sasuke represented unimaginable wealth. Others viewed him as the ultimate challenge capable of establishing permanent reputations throughout the underworld. Veterans quietly warned younger hunters that anyone capable of surviving confrontations with Jedi Masters should not be underestimated. Those warnings accomplished very little. Greed had always outweighed caution among professional hunters. Death Watch watched these developments with unusual fascination. Although Mandalore remained politically fractured under Duchess Satine's pacifist government, pre-Vizslas warriors continued rebuilding their strength in secret. Intelligence gathered from Republic sources suggested Sasuke relied upon discipline, blade mastery, tactical deception, and relentless determination rather than mystical dependence upon the Force. Those qualities resonated deeply with Mandalorian tradition. Vizsla concluded that if the Republic possessed a warrior capable of challenging Jedi without supernatural gifts, Mandalore deserved to understand him before anyone else did. Elite commandos quietly received orders to locate Sasuke, not necessarily to kill him, but to determine whether he represented a future ally worthy of Mandalorian respect. Far beyond Mandalore, another pair of eyes had already fixed upon Coruscant. Mother Talzin. Within the mist-covered swamps of Dathomir, the Night Sister leader stood motionless before a basin filled with shimmering green ichor. Spirits whispered through ancient magics far older than the Republic itself. Unlike the Jedi, Talzin immediately recognized that Sasuke's chakra differed fundamentally from the Force, yet still touched deeper universal energies. She sensed pathways unlike anything created through midi-chlorians, ancient currents of life and spirit flowing according to entirely different laws. The discovery intrigued her beyond measure. If Sasuke's power truly originated outside the Force, then perhaps Night Sister magic could interact with it in unpredictable ways. She ordered trusted agents to observe him from the shadows while she personally explored rituals capable of revealing more. Even pirates joined the hunt. The notorious Hondo Onaka nearly spilled his drink laughing when he first heard the rumors. According to increasingly exaggerated stories, one mysterious swordsman had embarrassed Jedi Masters, rejected Count Dooku, escaped Republic surveillance, and inspired the largest collection of bounty contracts in years. Hondo smiled broadly. Now that, he declared to his crew, is exactly the sort of friend a businessman should have. Unlike the Hutts or Black Sun, Hondo possessed no desire to imprison Sasuke. He simply imagined the remarkable adventures and profits that might follow someone capable of making the entire galaxy panic. Meanwhile, the Jedi Temple slowly transformed into an invisible prison. Not because the Council distrusted Sasuke, because every hour produced additional assassination attempts. Probe droids disguised as maintenance units infiltrated nearby districts before Temple security intercepted them. Several bounty hunters attempted to bribe clone officers guarding restricted sectors. Intelligence analysts uncovered encrypted communications suggesting criminal syndicates had placed spies among Coruscant's civilian population. Republic security doubled patrols while Temple guards sealed entrances normally open to visitors. Sasuke found the precautions exhausting. "They're afraid someone will take me," he observed one evening while overlooking Coruscant's endless skyline. Obi-Wan stood nearby. "They're afraid someone will start a war trying." Sasuke remained silent for several moments. "I didn't ask to become anyone's prize." "No." Obi-Wan sighed quietly. But history rarely asks permission. Despite the increasing security, Sasuke refused to remain idle. During countless missions with Team 7, he had learned that information gathered firsthand always surpassed intelligence delivered through intermediaries. Rather than waiting inside the temple while others debated his future, he quietly began constructing his own network of knowledge. Using ordinary civilian clothing supplied by temple contacts, Sasuke disappeared into Coruscant's lower levels whenever opportunities presented themselves. The endless city fascinated him. Layers upon layers of civilization stretched beneath glittering skyscrapers until sunlight disappeared entirely. Wealth and poverty existed only kilometers apart. Senators debated justice high above while criminals traded military secrets in forgotten maintenance tunnels below. Republic propaganda described Coruscant as civilization's shining center. Sasuke instead saw another village hiding corruption beneath polished stone. His Sharingan proved remarkably useful. Meetings inside crowded cantinas revealed concealed weapons before owners reached for them. Smugglers attempting deception betrayed themselves through involuntary muscle movements. Surveillance teams following him lost track whenever carefully planned genjutsu redirected attention toward imaginary disturbances. Within days, Sasuke quietly identified dozens of hidden criminal operations without officially investigating any of them. He wasn't hunting criminals. He was mapping the galaxy's invisible power structure. Every conversation confirmed the same conclusion. Neither the Republic nor the Separatists truly controlled the Clone Wars. Credits did. Information did. Fear did. Power flowed through countless unseen channels connecting governments, corporations, mercenaries, pirates, and crime syndicates into one vast web of competing interests. The more Sasuke observed, the more he recognized echoes of the shinobi world. Villages had claimed noble ideals while secret councils manipulated events from darkness. Here, different uniforms concealed remarkably similar ambitions. His hidden objective slowly became clear. He no longer intended merely to survive. He intended to uncover the individual manipulating everyone else. Somewhere inside this enormous conflict existed the architect. Someone benefited too consistently from endless war. Sasuke had spent his entire life hunting men who operated from the shadows. He would do so again. Unfortunately, others were hunting him just as relentlessly. One evening, temple security intercepted encrypted transmissions originating simultaneously from Black Sun, the Hutts, Death Watch, and multiple independent bounty guilds. Intelligence specialists quickly assembled the intercepted data into a terrifying picture. Every major criminal organization had narrowed Sasuke's location to Coruscant. Multiple strike teams were already inbound. Clone Commander Fox immediately deployed additional Coruscant Guard units throughout surrounding districts while Temple Guards prepared emergency evacuation routes. Air traffic controllers reported suspicious civilian transports entering orbit under falsified registrations. Republic intelligence estimated dozens of independent hunters had arrived within 48 hours. The hunt had begun. Far away, aboard a Separatist flagship drifting through hyperspace, Count Dooku studied the same intelligence reports with measured amusement. His earlier conversation with Sasuke had convinced him the young warrior would never willingly become anyone's servant. That independence made criminal capture especially dangerous. Should the Hutts or Black Sun acquire him first, neither the Republic nor the Confederacy would control what happened next. Dooku therefore issued discreet instructions. Observe. Do not interfere. Unless absolutely necessary. He suspected events would soon reveal far more than another recruitment opportunity. As Coruscant settled into artificial night, rain fell across countless illuminated towers while speeders crossed endless traffic lanes like rivers of light. Somewhere beneath those glowing skylines, hundreds of hunters prepared carefully laid traps. Some sought unimaginable wealth. Others desired knowledge. A few simply wanted glory. None realized they were competing against legends. Descending separately through Coruscant's atmosphere came two of the most dangerous individuals in the Clone Wars. One sleek starship belonged to the galaxy's greatest bounty hunter. The other carried the Separatists' deadliest assassin. Neither knew the other had accepted the contract. As their ships landed only districts apart, two names quietly spread through the underworld with equal measures of excitement and dread. Cad Bane, Asajj Ventress. Both had arrived to claim the same bounty. For decades, Sheev Palpatine had orchestrated the Clone Wars with breathtaking precision. Every crisis, every victory, every defeat, every political scandal, and every battlefield disaster had ultimately served a single purpose. The Republic believed it fought for survival. The Separatists believed they fought for freedom. The Jedi believed they defended peace. None realized they danced according to the will of one man hidden behind two identities. As Darth Sidious, he guided Count Dooku and the Confederacy. As Supreme Chancellor, he guided the Republic toward willingly surrendering its democracy. Every major player occupied a carefully prepared position upon his galactic chessboard. Then Sasuke Uchiha appeared. Unlike every senator, general, Jedi, Sith apprentice, or bounty hunter Palpatine had manipulated throughout his long career, Sasuke possessed no place within the Sith Lords' calculations. He carried no loyalty to the Republic. He harbored no instinctive hatred toward the Separatists. He respected neither Jedi doctrine nor Sith philosophy. Most dangerously of all, he possessed extraordinary power while remaining almost entirely invisible to the Force. The countless visions Palpatine relied upon to anticipate the future simply dissolved whenever they approached the Uchiha. Entire branches of possibility became dark, silent voids beyond even Sith perception. For the first time in decades, Darth Sidious found himself unable to predict the outcome of his own plans. Deep beneath the Galactic Senate, inside chambers unknown to almost every being in existence, the Dark Lord meditated before ancient Sith artifacts while rivers of crimson energy flowed through the Force. Normally the future unfolded before him like branching currents waiting to be selected. He could sense Jedi victories before battles began. He could feel senators preparing betrayals days before they acted. Even Count Dooku's smallest doubts appeared as faint ripples within the dark side. Whenever he searched for Sasuke, nothing. Not resistance. Not concealment. Simply absence. It reminded him of staring into space beyond the edge of the galaxy itself. Impossible. Fascinating. Dangerous. Rather than attempting immediate confrontation, Palpatine chose his greatest weapon: manipulation. He had corrupted kings, Jedi, corporations, entire governments, and one of the most gifted Force users in galactic history without revealing his true identity. Sasuke, despite his impressive abilities, remained a young man shaped by grief, betrayal, and loss. Those wounds represented opportunities. Palpatine simply needed to understand them. Republic intelligence unknowingly provided much of what he required. Every report compiled by the Jedi concerning Sasuke eventually crossed the Chancellor's desk through ordinary governmental channels. Psychological assessments described profound trauma rooted in the destruction of his clan. Mission reports emphasized his relentless pursuit of justice, his distrust of institutions, and his tendency to isolate himself emotionally whenever confronted with painful memories. Palpatine smiled. Hatred, plus loneliness. Justice twisted into vengeance. He had transformed countless souls using far less. The Chancellor's first move appeared completely innocent. During a routine reception honoring clone commanders returning from successful campaigns, Palpatine personally invited Sasuke as a distinguished guest of the Republic. The Jedi saw little danger. Refusing the invitation might even create unnecessary political tension. Sasuke accepted, less from curiosity than from a desire to observe the Republic's highest office firsthand. The Senate reception glittered with elegance. Marble floors reflected golden chandeliers while senators exchanged carefully practiced smiles beneath towering statues celebrating thousands of years of Republic history. Music drifted softly across enormous chambers as diplomats discussed trade agreements and military logistics with equal enthusiasm. Sasuke immediately noticed something familiar. Nobody spoke honestly. Every compliment concealed negotiation. Every conversation carried hidden purpose. The atmosphere reminded him less of noble leadership and more of the meetings once held among Konoha's ruling elders. Palpatine welcomed him warmly. Not as Chancellor addressing an outsider. As an older statesman speaking with someone who had endured extraordinary hardship. "I've heard much about your courage. I've heard much about yours." Palpatine laughed pleasantly. Leadership often demands difficult choices. So does survival. The conversation continued naturally, almost effortlessly. Palpatine never mentioned the Sith, never criticized the Jedi directly, never attempted obvious persuasion. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions about responsibility, sacrifice, and justice. What should a leader do when peace requires violence? What if protecting millions demands sacrificing thousands? Can mercy toward evil become cruelty toward the innocent? Each question carried layers beneath its surface. Sasuke answered cautiously. Justice without truth becomes revenge. Palpatine inclined his head slightly. And truth? It depends who's telling it. The answer pleased him. Not because Sasuke agreed. Because he questioned everything. Questioning authority often created isolation. Isolation created vulnerability. Over the following weeks, similar encounters occurred naturally. Sometimes inside Senate corridors. Occasionally during military briefings. Once within the Chancellor's private office after discussions involving Republic security. Never too often. Never suspiciously. Palpatine patiently cultivated familiarity rather than friendship. Meanwhile, he quietly arranged for Sasuke to encounter carefully selected information. Reports of Republic corruption. Evidence of senators accepting corporate bribes. Records showing innocent systems abandoned because protecting them offered little political value. None of it was fabricated. That made the manipulation stronger. Truth remained the most convincing lie when presented without context. Sasuke grew increasingly disturbed. The Republic genuinely aspired toward justice. Yet bureaucracy repeatedly undermined those ideals. Countless ordinary beings suffered while politicians debated procedure. Again, he recognized painful similarities with his own world. Yet something prevented him from accepting Palpatine's subtle conclusions. The Chancellor always highlighted failure. Never hope. Always corruption. Never sacrifice. That imbalance felt deliberate. Palpatine eventually shifted. Strategies. If political disappointment failed to isolate Sasuke, perhaps emotional wounds would. He quietly instructed trusted intelligence operatives to uncover every possible detail concerning the Uchiha clan. Although they could not investigate another universe directly, interviews with Sasuke, Jedi observations, and fragmented accounts slowly constructed a picture of unimaginable tragedy. A brilliant clan. Destroyed from within. A beloved brother revealed as its executioner. A survivor consumed by vengeance. Palpatine recognized himself within the pattern. Anakin had lost his mother. Sasuke had lost everyone. Pain created extraordinary leverage. The Chancellor therefore arranged another seemingly accidental conversation. You remind me of someone. Sasuke looked toward him. A gifted young man. Palpatine continued thoughtfully. He carries great anger because the people entrusted with protecting him failed. Anakin. Without naming him. I hope he finds peace. So do I. Palpatine lowered his voice. But peace without justice rarely lasts. For a fraction of a second, Sasuke's expression hardened. The Sith Lord noticed immediately. Progress. But measurable. Unfortunately for Palpatine, Sasuke had survived far more sophisticated manipulation. Orochimaru had promised power. Obito had weaponized grief. Danzo had twisted patriotism into atrocity. Compared with them, the Chancellor felt almost transparent. Sasuke began watching Palpatine instead. Every conversation, every expression, every carefully timed appearance. Nothing overtly suspicious emerged, yet instinct warned him something remained profoundly wrong. Elsewhere, Darth Sidious pursued another avenue. If Sasuke resisted emotional manipulation, perhaps conflict would reveal hidden weaknesses. He secretly redirected criminal intelligence toward Coruscant, ensuring bounty hunters, pirates, and syndicates intensified their pursuit. Each assassination attempt would increase pressure upon the Uchiha while simultaneously forcing the Jedi into increasingly defensive positions. Chaos always benefited the Sith. Sasuke refused to behave predictably. Instead of becoming paranoid, he hunted the hunters. Using his Sharingan and extraordinary sensory awareness, He dismantled surveillance networks before they activated. Black Sun operatives disappeared after attempting ambushes. Pirate informants quietly abandoned contracts once Genjutsu convinced them pursuing Sasuke guaranteed death. Several bounty hunters voluntarily withdrew after witnessing companions defeated without fatal force. The underworld slowly reached an uncomfortable conclusion. The bounty remained enormous. Collecting it might be impossible. Palpatine watched every report with growing frustration. Nothing worked. Threats hardened Sasuke. Kindness earned caution. Isolation produced observation rather than despair. Every psychological pathway normally leading toward darkness instead strengthened the young shinobi's independence. Even more concerning, Anakin Skywalker continued spending time with Sasuke. Their friendship remained informal, built through training exercises and mutual respect rather than ideology. Yet Palpatine observed subtle changes. Anakin asked more questions. About authority. About war. About attachment. About whether institutions deserved unquestioning loyalty. Those questions endangered decades of careful grooming. If Sasuke continued influencing Skywalker, the future itself might shift. Sidious considered eliminating the Uchiha outright. The idea lasted only moments. Assassination solved nothing. His death might inspire investigation. Capture seemed equally uncertain given Sasuke's growing reputation. The game required adaptation. For perhaps the first time since becoming Darth Sidious, improvisation replaced certainty. Even Count Dooku noticed unusual changes. Encrypted transmissions arrived more frequently. Instructions evolved rapidly. Operations previously scheduled months ahead suddenly accelerated without explanation. The Count sensed urgency within his master's normally flawless composure. He did not yet understand why. Inside the Jedi Temple, Yoda also sensed the galaxy changing. Meditation brought fragmented visions unlike anything he had experienced before. Countless futures appeared, then vanished. The Force itself struggled to reveal clear outcomes whenever Sasuke stood near pivotal events. It was as though history had become fluid. Neither light nor dark possessed complete advantage anymore. One evening, while overlooking Coruscant's endless skyline, Sasuke quietly spoke with Anakin. "Do you trust him? The Chancellor?" Anakin hesitated. "I owe him a great deal." "That wasn't my question." Silence settled between them. Finally Anakin answered honestly. "I don't know." Far away, beneath the Senate, Darth Sidious reached the same conclusion regarding Sasuke. He did not know him. And uncertainty terrified even the greatest manipulators. The Sith Lords stood before holographic projections displaying clone production facilities, military deployments, and confidential contingency protocols years ahead of schedule. Originally, everything had unfolded perfectly. The Jedi would continue exhausting themselves. Anakin would fall. Only then, Order 66. Now another variable threatened every calculation. If Sasuke uncovered his identity too early, if he influenced Skywalker, if he united independent factions, entire decades of planning could collapse. Palpatine slowly activated a secure communication channel accessible only to the highest levels of Kaminoan coordination. His instructions were brief. Increase production readiness. Accelerate contingency implementation. Certain military protocols must become operational sooner than anticipated. The Kaminoans accepted without question. Across the galaxy, clone commanders continued fighting unaware that their hidden purpose had just moved closer. Standing alone beneath Coruscant, Darth Sidious stared into a future he could no longer fully control. For the first time in years, he quietly began accelerating preparations for Order 66 because Sasuke Uchiha had made destiny itself impossible to predict. The Clone Wars had always followed a grim but recognizable rhythm. Republic fleets established defensive lines while Venator-class star destroyers unleashed disciplined broadsides across contested star systems. Clone commanders coordinated precise planetary invasions supported by Jedi generals whose connection to the Force allowed them to anticipate enemy movements moments before they occurred. Across the battlefield, Separatist commanders answered with overwhelming numbers, deploying endless columns of battle droids, armored walkers, and warships designed to exhaust the Republic through sheer industrial might. 25,000 years of galactic warfare had refined every doctrine, every maneuver, and every tactical philosophy into a system both sides understood. Victory belonged to whoever mastered those rules most effectively. Then Sasuke Uchiha entered the war, and within weeks every military academy in the galaxy realized the rules themselves had become obsolete. Unlike the Jedi, Sasuke refused to command armies. Unlike the Sith, he had no desire to conquer worlds. He rejected the Republic's political bureaucracy as readily as he rejected the Separatists' promises of power. Instead, he treated the Clone Wars as one enormous battlefield where innocent lives were constantly sacrificed by leaders hiding safely behind strategy rooms and Senate chambers. If a Separatist offensive threatened civilians, he intervened. If Republic commanders accepted unacceptable casualties for tactical advantage, he disrupted their operations just as readily. His loyalty belonged neither to governments nor to ideology. It belonged solely to his own judgment. That independence terrified everyone. Republic commanders could not predict whether Sasuke would support an operation or dismantle it. Separatist admirals discovered carefully prepared invasions collapsing because a single black-haired warrior appeared where intelligence insisted no Republic reinforcements existed. Criminal syndicates abandoned lucrative contracts whenever reports placed Sasuke anywhere nearby. Even bounty hunters who prided themselves on professionalism quietly refused assignments involving the Uchiha unless the payment became unimaginably high. Within only a few months, military briefings across the galaxy added a completely new category to every strategic assessment. Unknown variable, Sasuke Uchiha. The first campaign to demonstrate his influence unfolded on the industrial world of Bracca. Massive Separatist forces descended upon the planet's enormous shipbreaking yards, hoping to seize thousands of decommissioned Republic warships before they could be recycled into fresh military production. Clone intelligence estimated that holding the planet would require weeks of brutal urban warfare and casualties exceeding anything local commanders could sustain. Jedi General Plo Koon prepared a disciplined withdrawal to preserve his troops until reinforcements arrived. Before those orders could be executed, black flames suddenly erupted across the battlefield. Sasuke descended from the shattered hull of a dismantled cruiser with the speed of a falling meteor. The Sharingan rotated beneath crimson eyes as dozens of B-2 super battle droids opened fire simultaneously. Blue blaster bolts crossed the air in impossible numbers, yet Sasuke flowed through them as though reading the future itself. Every movement carried absolute precision. Every dodge occurred milliseconds before the shot arrived. To clone troopers watching from defensive barricades, it resembled Force precognition. To Jedi observing through the Force, it looked disturbingly different. His reactions followed patterns completely detached from the currents they understood. Lightning exploded outward. Chidori surged through ranks of battle droids, reducing armored bodies to molten fragments before they even completed target acquisition. Spider droids collapsed beneath strikes capable of piercing heavy durasteel plating. Tactical droid commanders recalculated formations again and again, only to discover that every prediction failed against an opponent whose methods belonged to no galactic doctrine. Plo Koon did not hesitate. Recognizing opportunity, he immediately redirected clone battalions to exploit the confusion. Republic artillery targeted immobilized Separatist armor while LAT gunships evacuated civilians previously trapped behind enemy lines. Sasuke had not won the battle alone. He had created conditions allowing thousands of trained soldiers to accomplish what strategy alone had deemed impossible. Word of Bracca spread rapidly. The Republic celebrated victory. The Separatists demanded explanations. Darth Sidious quietly studied battle recordings with increasing concern. The next intervention proved even more disruptive. On Salakami, Republic intelligence approved a tactical bombardment intended to destroy a major Separatist logistics center. Calculations predicted military success with acceptable collateral damage. Unfortunately, local civilians had sought shelter inside surrounding settlements after droid forces occupied the region. Military necessity threatened to become humanitarian disaster. Sasuke arrived minutes before orbital bombardment commenced. Instead of confronting the droids directly, he infiltrated the command network itself. Using captured intelligence gathered during previous missions, he bypassed perimeter defenses before eliminating communications officers through non-lethal genjutsu. Clone commanders preparing artillery strikes suddenly lost every updated targeting solution as Separatist tactical computers transmitted contradictory battlefield data. Droid formations turned upon one another after carefully crafted illusions convinced commanders that Republic infiltrators had already penetrated their lines. By the time Jedi General Aayla Secura reached the Central Command facility, she discovered thousands of civilians already evacuated while the Separatist supply network collapsed without the Republic firing a single orbital shot. Victory. Minimal casualties. Maximum strategic effect. Military analysts struggled to classify the operation. Traditional doctrine emphasized overwhelming force. Sasuke emphasized precision. As weeks turned into months, similar stories echoed across countless battlefronts. Sometimes Sasuke appeared beside clone companies facing impossible odds before disappearing into smoke after tipping the balance. Other times he dismantled Republic offensives he believed unnecessarily reckless, forcing commanders to reconsider operations that valued objectives above lives. He never remained long enough to receive recognition. He accepted no medals, no rank, and no political authority. Entire campaigns began including contingency plans based solely upon the possibility that Sasuke might intervene. The Jedi watched with growing fascination. Many initially believed his methods reckless. Instead, they repeatedly witnessed extraordinary restraint. Despite possessing techniques capable of devastating battlefields, Sasuke almost never employed overwhelming destruction unless absolutely necessary. Clone medics noted an unusual pattern after every operation involving him. Enemy casualties remained surprisingly low compared to strategic gains. Battle droids were destroyed efficiently, but living opponents often survived incapacitated rather than killed. Obi-Wan quietly remarked during one council meeting, "He fights to end battles, not to win them." Mace Windu remained unconvinced. Intentions do not replace accountability. Yet even Windu could not deny results. Entire sectors stabilized because one unpredictable outsider repeatedly disrupted escalating violence before campaigns spiraled beyond control. The Sith viewed matters differently. Count Dooku increasingly respected Sasuke's tactical brilliance while recognizing the impossibility of recruiting him. Every Republic success strengthened Separatist resolve elsewhere because commanders overcompensated for previous failures. Sasuke unintentionally prolonged the strategic balance by denying either faction decisive victories. Sidious saw something far more dangerous. Every battle Sasuke influenced weakened the narrative upon which the Clone Wars depended. Desperation. Dependence upon authoritarian leadership. If independent heroes repeatedly solved impossible crises outside governmental control, public faith might shift away from centralized power altogether. That could not be permitted. Accordingly, Darth Sidious ordered General Grievous to eliminate the Uchiha personally. Grievous welcomed the challenge. The cyborg warlord had spent years collecting lightsabers from fallen Jedi. His reputation inspired terror across the Republic because few opponents survived encountering him. 4 mechanical arms wielded 4 lightsabers simultaneously while cybernetic reflexes matched nearly any Jedi Master. Unlike political leaders, Grievous viewed Sasuke with uncomplicated enthusiasm. Another warrior. Another trophy. Another lightsaber for his collection. Intelligence finally presented the opportunity on the volcanic world of Mustafar, where Separatist commanders established critical manufacturing facilities supporting nearby offensives. Republic reconnaissance detected unusual troop movements suggesting Grievous himself supervised production. Sasuke independently infiltrated the region seeking evidence linking Separatist corporations to corruption inside the Republic Senate. Instead, he found Grievous waiting. The surrounding lava rivers cast crimson reflections across black volcanic stone as ash drifted through suffocating heat. Droid battalions secured every approach while Grievous emerged slowly from towering foundry gates, mechanical claws scraping durasteel beneath his feet. 4 lightsabers ignited simultaneously. Green, blue, blue, green. The general's metallic laughter echoed across the valley. Sasuke answered by unsheathing his chikudo. No dramatic speech. No declaration. Only silence. Grievous attacked first. His 4 blades rotated into devastating circles capable of overwhelming experienced Jedi through relentless pressure alone. Sparks exploded as lightsabers carved molten trenches into volcanic rock. Sasuke vanished. Not backward. Forward. His speed caught even Grievous by surprise. Sharingan anticipated each mechanical strike fractions of a second before execution. The general's computerized combat algorithms adapted instantly, increasing attack speed beyond ordinary biological limits. Sasuke responded with movements that defied conventional swordsmanship entirely, blending shinobi agility with precise kenjutsu refined through countless life-or-death battles. Steel met plasma. Chidori surged along his blade. The electrical discharge overloaded Grievous' cybernetic arm the instant their weapons collided. One lightsaber spun harmlessly into lava. Grievous roared. He accelerated again. Hidden launchers fired micromissiles while mechanical limbs attacked from impossible angles. Sasuke formed rapid hand seals. Fire release. A roaring dragon of flame erupted across the battlefield, forcing Grievous through clouds of burning debris. The cyborg burst free, armor blackened but intact, only to discover dozens of identical Sasukes surrounding him. Shadow clones. Every clone attacked simultaneously. Grievous shredded illusions with terrifying efficiency until one proved real. The real Sasuke appeared above him. Chidori Nagashi exploded outward. Lightning flooded Grievous' entire cybernetic frame. Systems failed. Servomotors locked. Internal processors overloaded beneath currents never designed into galactic engineering specifications. The general crashed to one knee. Before he could recover, Sasuke's blade stopped at his throat. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Sasuke withdrew. I don't kill defeated opponents. Grievous stared in disbelief as the Uchiha simply turned away. Republic reinforcements arrived moments later, forcing Separatist evacuation while clone forces secured the manufacturing complex. Grievous escaped. Alive. Humiliated. Across the galaxy, military intelligence struggled to believe intercepted reports. General Grievous, the terror of the Jedi, had been defeated in single combat by a warrior who did not use the Force. The story spread through clone barracks, Separatist command ships, criminal syndicates, and even the Jedi Temple with astonishing speed. Legends had changed. For the first time since the Clone Wars began, beings across the galaxy whispered about a fighter whose name inspired as much awe as fear. And somewhere beneath Coruscant, Darth Sidious realized the war was no longer unfolding according to his design. General Grievous had been defeated in a duel that would echo across galactic history. The Battle of Coruscant exploded with a fury that shook the very heart of the Republic. Thousands of warships exchanged torrents of crimson and emerald turbolaser fire above the Ecumenopolis while shattered frigates burned through the upper atmosphere like artificial meteors. Venator-class star destroyers maneuvered desperately against endless waves of Separatist vessels, their fighter squadrons weaving through clouds of debris as explosions illuminated the endless city below. Across trillions of inhabitants, panic spread as civil defense sirens echoed between skyscrapers that stretched beyond the clouds. For countless citizens, it appeared that the Clone Wars had finally reached the Republic's immortal capital. Yet hidden beneath the spectacle of fleets and starfighters was a battle infinitely more important than the one raging in orbit. Somewhere inside the chaos moved one man from another universe who had begun assembling pieces of a conspiracy that threatened the fate of the entire galaxy. Sasuke Uchiha had spent months observing the Republic with the same cold patience that had once allowed him to track Akatsuki across the 5 great nations. While Jedi Masters debated philosophy and senators argued politics, he watched patterns. Every military disaster somehow strengthened Chancellor Palpatine's political authority. Every emergency granted him greater executive powers. Every Republic defeat somehow positioned him to emerge stronger than before. The inconsistencies had accumulated until they could no longer be dismissed as coincidence. His Sharingan had not merely memorized conversations and classified documents. It had recorded countless tiny contradictions in people's expressions, hidden gestures exchanged between officials, encrypted transmissions intercepted by Republic intelligence, and financial movements buried beneath impossible layers of bureaucracy. Individually, none proved anything. Together they painted the outline of an invisible puppeteer. Unlike the Jedi, Sasuke had lived through manipulation on a scale almost beyond imagination. He had watched his own brother orchestrate years of hatred to prepare him for a truth hidden beneath deception. He had seen Obito manipulate entire wars while remaining invisible. He had confronted Danzo, whose smiling patriotism concealed monstrous crimes committed in the name of peace. He knew what genuine conspiracies looked like because he had survived them. To him, Palpatine's rise carried the unmistakable scent of someone deliberately engineering history. As Coruscant fought for survival, Sasuke abandoned the front lines entirely. Instead of chasing Separatist commanders alongside clone divisions, he infiltrated the Senate district itself. His cloak disappeared into crowds of fleeing civilians as emergency transports screamed overhead. Clone security forces rushed toward defensive positions without noticing the silent shinobi moving between shadows faster than most surveillance systems could register. Every instinct told him that the true battlefield lay not above the planet but beneath its polished political facade. Within the Jedi Temple, confusion reigned almost as completely as in orbit. Communications had become fragmented by Separatist interference. Reports arrived contradicting one another every few minutes. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker had already departed on the desperate mission to rescue Chancellor Palpatine from General Grievous' flagship, believing the kidnapping represented the central objective of the campaign. Mace Windu coordinated temple defenses while Masters Shaak Ti, Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, and countless others directed clone detachments protecting government districts. No one realized the battle unfolding exactly as Darth Sidious had planned. Except Sasuke. His investigation had uncovered encrypted maintenance schematics for forgotten sections beneath the Senate complex. Republic archives listed entire underground transit systems that officially no longer existed despite receiving unexplained maintenance budgets every year. Those tunnels connected directly toward ancient districts beneath Coruscant where no senator had reason to travel. They also intersected with sensor-blind spots impossible to explain through ordinary engineering. Descending into those forgotten corridors, Sasuke felt the atmosphere change immediately. The polished elegance of the Senate vanished, replaced by ancient durasteel walls blackened by centuries of neglect. Emergency lighting flickered through clouds of dust while distant machinery echoed like the heartbeat of some sleeping giant beneath the Capitol. The air carried the metallic scent of ozone mixed with something darker, something strangely familiar that reminded him of Orochimaru's hidden laboratories. This place had been built for secrecy rather than governance. His Sharingan activated automatically. The Crimson Tomo rotated slowly as hidden chakra pathways sharpened every detail before his eyes. Footprints disturbed ancient dust only hours earlier. Tiny security devices concealed within cracked walls transmitted encrypted signals through frequencies invisible to ordinary scanners. Laser grids protected passages never marked upon official maps. Whoever used these tunnels possessed immense resources and absolute confidence that nobody would ever discover them. Sasuke slipped through every defense with practiced precision. Far above, aboard the Invisible Hand, Anakin Skywalker fought desperately beside Obi-Wan through endless ranks of battle droids toward Chancellor Palpatine's prison chamber. The rescue unfolded almost exactly as Sidious had intended. Every duel, every sacrifice, every calculated victory nudged Anakin one step closer toward embracing the darkness waiting patiently inside his future master. Yet an unfamiliar uncertainty had begun disturbing Palpatine's flawless confidence. Despite sensing Anakin's approach through the Force, he could no longer perceive Sasuke's movements at all. It was as though the Uchiha existed beyond every future the Force attempted to reveal. For perhaps the first time in decades, Darth Sidious genuinely feared the unknown. Deep beneath the Senate, Sasuke reached a circular chamber unlike anything else beneath Coruscant. Ancient Sith architecture intertwined seamlessly with modern Republic construction. Massive statues stood shrouded beneath darkness while crimson illumination reflected across polished obsidian floors. Hollow projectors surrounded an elevated platform from which someone could secretly communicate with locations scattered throughout the galaxy. Recent activity surrounded every console. His Sharingan captured thousands of details within seconds. Encrypted messages addressed to Count Dooku. Military deployments redirected before official Senate approval. Separatist fleet movements transmitted from within Republic territory. Financial authorizations funding both Republic procurement contracts and corporations secretly manufacturing battle droids. Every transmission originated from one authorization code. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Sasuke silently copied everything into a compact Republic data crystal stolen weeks earlier from military intelligence. Unlike the Jedi, who often trusted intuition above evidence, he understood that conspiracies required undeniable proof. The information alone could expose corruption reaching levels beyond imagination. But something even greater awaited him. Hidden within a sealed chamber rested a collection of black robes surrounding an ornate crimson lightsaber unlike any Jedi weapon. Nearby stood an ancient Sith holocron radiating energy so oppressive that even someone disconnected from the Force instinctively recognized its darkness. The room belonged to Darth Sidious, the Chancellor's secret sanctuary. The realization settled instantly. Palpatine was not merely corrupt. He was the Sith Lord orchestrating the entire Clone Wars. Before Sasuke could investigate further, his Sharingan detected movement. Someone else had entered the tunnels. Not clone troopers. Not Jedi. Royal Guards. The Chancellor's elite protectors advanced through intersecting corridors with perfect discipline, their crimson robes flowing behind force pikes crackling with lethal energy. They had not arrived by coincidence. Somehow Palpatine had realized his sanctuary had been compromised. Sasuke vanished into motion. Lightning-fast Shunshin transformed him into little more than a blur weaving through the underground complex. Force pikes struck empty air while exploding tags collapsed supporting pillars behind pursuing guards. The tunnels shook violently as centuries-old architecture fractured beneath controlled detonations. Dust filled every passage, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The Royal Guards pursued relentlessly. Unlike ordinary soldiers, they anticipated ambushes with frightening precision. Their relentless discipline reminded Sasuke of Enbu assassins, warriors trained for absolute loyalty rather than survival. Several nearly intercepted him before Chidori surged across his hand, the shrill cry of concentrated lightning echoing through subterranean chambers. One devastating strike severed an armored blast door, sealing an entire squad beneath collapsing debris. Still they came. Because they were not trying to kill him. They wanted the evidence. Meanwhile, the Battle of Coruscant reached its decisive phase. Obi-Wan and Anakin defeated Count Dooku in a duel destined to alter galactic history. As Dooku fell beneath Skywalker's blade, confusion filled the dying Sith apprentice's eyes. Even in his final moments he realized Palpatine had betrayed him completely. Everything they had built together had merely served another layer of deception. Far below the capital, Sasuke reached an abandoned communications relay connected directly to Republic emergency channels. The data crystal in his possession contained enough classified evidence to expose the greatest conspiracy ever conceived. Every instinct urged him to broadcast the files immediately. Then his Sharingan caught one final detail. The communications relay had already been compromised. Every transmission leaving the station automatically routed through the Chancellor's private encryption network. Palpatine had prepared for this possibility years before. Even truth itself had been trapped. Sasuke understood he possessed only one remaining option. Deliver the evidence personally. The nearest individuals capable of acting upon it were the Jedi. Specifically, Anakin Skywalker. The man Palpatine had spent years manipulating deserved to see the truth with his own eyes before the trap finally closed around him. Escaping the collapsing tunnels, Sasuke emerged into a Coruscant consumed by fire. Smoke darkened the horizon while burning wreckage rained from orbit. Clone gunships roared overhead transporting wounded soldiers as emergency crews struggled to rescue civilians trapped beneath fallen structures. Amid the chaos, he sprinted toward the Jedi Temple with impossible speed, clutching the data crystal that could either save the Republic or plunge it into even greater catastrophe. Across the city, Anakin's gunship descended toward Coruscant after rescuing Chancellor Palpatine. The exhausted Jedi believed he had won the Republic's greatest victory. He had no idea that another battle was racing toward him. As Sasuke reached the temple steps, the massive entrance doors burst open. Anakin Skywalker stood there. Without a word, Sasuke threw the data crystal directly into his hands. Anakin activated it instinctively. His eyes widened as classified recordings filled the holographic display. One image froze his heartbeat completely. Chancellor Palpatine kneeling before Count Dooku, wearing the robes of Darth Sidious. The future Anakin had always believed inevitable suddenly fractured before his eyes. The Battle of Coruscant had already become one of the greatest military catastrophes in galactic history, but by the time the shattered remains of Separatist fleets drifted across the skies above the capital, another war had begun beneath the surface. It was no longer merely a struggle between the Republic and the Confederacy. It had become a desperate race against time itself. Sasuke Uchiha had seen enough evidence to understand the terrifying truth that countless Jedi Masters had overlooked for years. Every assassination, every manufactured crisis, every military escalation, every political emergency, every suspicious victory and carefully managed defeat pointed toward a single architect hidden behind layers of deception. Chancellor Palpatine was not merely benefiting from the Clone Wars. He had built the conflict from the beginning. Somewhere beneath the polished smile of the Republic's beloved leader hid Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord who had manipulated an entire galaxy into destroying itself. Unfortunately, knowing the truth and proving it were two entirely different challenges. Across Coruscant, emergency communications echoed through government districts as clone divisions rushed to reinforce strategic positions after General Grievous' failed assault. Jedi Knights hurried between command centers coordinating rescue operations while senators attempted to reassure frightened citizens that the Republic remained secure. Yet beneath the appearance of recovery, panic quietly spread through the highest levels of government. Palpatine understood that the carefully balanced future he had cultivated for decades now stood dangerously close to collapse. Sasuke had survived every attempt to eliminate him. Count Dooku had died before revealing the full extent of the Sith conspiracy, but not before planting enough doubt inside Anakin Skywalker to fracture his complete trust in the Chancellor. Even worse, intelligence recovered during the pursuit through Coruscant's undercity contained encrypted transmissions connecting Palpatine's private offices to operations that should have been impossible for any legitimate Chancellor to authorize. The Sith Lord had always planned decades ahead. For the first time in his life, he found himself reacting instead of controlling. Sasuke moved through Coruscant's immense cityscape like a shadow drifting between towers of light. His Sharingan remained active almost continuously, scanning millions of movements across crowded skyways while identifying surveillance drones, clone patrols, bounty hunters, and intelligence operatives converging upon his location. Every major faction in the galaxy had reached the same conclusion. Whoever controlled Sasuke during the coming hours might decide the future of civilization itself. Black Sun assassins stalked the lower districts. Death Watch commandos accepted contracts from unknown benefactors. Cad Bane pursued separate intelligence while Asajj Ventress eliminated anyone unfortunate enough to cross her path. Even surviving Separatist agents abandoned military objectives to focus entirely upon preventing Sasuke from reaching the Jedi Temple. Yet the Uchiha refused to allow himself to become trapped by the city's endless distractions. His objective had become brutally simple. Reach the Jedi Council. Reveal the truth. Stop Palpatine before history reached the point of no return. Inside the Jedi Temple, however, events unfolded with growing confusion. Masters Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Shaak Ti, Kit Fisto, and the remaining council members carefully analyzed the fragmented evidence arriving from multiple intelligence sources. Reports contradicted one another almost hourly. Republic intelligence insisted Separatist infiltration remained the greatest threat. Military command warned of hidden terrorist cells throughout Coruscant. Yet Jedi investigators continued uncovering impossible inconsistencies surrounding Palpatine himself. Financial transactions disappeared from government archives. Security recordings vanished moments after being reviewed. Witnesses assigned to sensitive investigations suffered mysterious accidents before giving testimony. The Force itself seemed strangely clouded. Yoda had experienced uncertainty before. The dark side had long obscured many visions surrounding the Clone Wars. Yet this felt different. Every attempt to look into the future dissolved into fragmented possibilities rather than coherent outcomes. Sometimes he saw the Republic surviving. Sometimes Coruscant burned beneath civil war. Sometimes he sensed Anakin consumed by unimaginable darkness. Other visions ended with countless Jedi still alive years into the future. One constant appeared in every possibility. Sasuke, the young warrior from another universe, remained the single variable the Force refused to predict. Elsewhere within the capital, Anakin Skywalker found himself standing alone inside a private hangar overlooking the endless skyline. His mission alongside Obi-Wan had succeeded. Chancellor Palpatine had been rescued. General Grievous had escaped. Count Dooku lay dead by Anakin's own hand. According to official reports, the Republic had achieved victory. Yet victory had never felt so hollow. His conversations with Sasuke replayed endlessly inside his thoughts. Unlike the Jedi Masters, Sasuke had never spoken in riddles or comforting philosophies. He simply observed people exactly as they were. He had questioned why a chancellor continually gained greater emergency powers during a war supposedly fought to preserve democracy. He had questioned why the Jedi accepted becoming military generals despite their role as peacekeepers. Most importantly, he had questioned why Palpatine always seemed strangely prepared for disasters before anyone else. Anakin desperately wanted those questions to have innocent answers. Deep inside his instincts, however, doubt continued growing. Before he could gather his thoughts further, R2-D2 projected a recovered security fragment from one of the damaged government archives. The recording lasted barely 7 seconds. It showed Chancellor Palpatine entering a restricted communications chamber shortly before transmitting an encrypted signal toward Separatist territory. Then the recording abruptly corrupted. 7 seconds. That was all. Yet it contradicted everything Anakin believed. Meanwhile, Palpatine quietly summoned the highest-ranking members of the Coruscant Guard beneath the pretense of emergency security coordination. Publicly, he remained calm, reassuring senators that recent attacks demonstrated only the Republic's resilience. Privately, he issued far darker instructions. Every intelligence division would prioritize locating Sasuke. Military checkpoints multiplied across the capital. Star destroyers established orbital interdiction. Clone commanders received sealed contingency directives requiring immediate execution upon authorization from the Chancellor alone. Order 66 no longer belonged to the distant future. Its activation moved closer with every passing hour. Palpatine could feel destiny slipping beyond his grasp. If exposing himself early became necessary to preserve the Sith Grand Plan, then so be it. Better to seize absolute power imperfectly than lose everything through hesitation. Sasuke finally reached the outer districts surrounding the Jedi Temple just as clone security cordons sealed every major approach. Hundreds of soldiers occupied defensive positions alongside armored walkers while LAAT gunships circled overhead. The official explanation cited ongoing terrorist threats following the Separatist invasion. Sasuke recognized the truth immediately. The temple itself had become a prison. He avoided direct confrontation, using rooftops, maintenance corridors, and vertical ascents impossible for ordinary soldiers to follow. Lightning release briefly disabled surveillance grids while precise chakra control allowed him to leap effortlessly between towering skyscrapers. Every movement reflected years of experience infiltrating heavily defended strongholds far more dangerous than military installations. Still, Coruscant presented unique challenges. Unlike shinobi villages, the city never slept. Millions of civilians crowded every level. Every unnecessary battle risked countless innocent lives. Inside the temple, Mace Windu suddenly sensed an approaching presence unlike anything else in the Force. It was not because Sasuke radiated Force energy. Rather, his absence created an unmistakable void against the living currents surrounding every other being. Windu immediately realized the Uchiha had arrived. He also sensed another presence approaching. The ancient, hidden beneath decades of careful deception. For the first time since the Clone Wars began, Mace Windu's certainty shattered. Before any warning could be issued, temple security alarms activated simultaneously. Not because enemies had breached the defenses, because the Chancellor himself had requested immediate entry. Across the Senate district, thousands of senators assembled for an emergency session addressing the aftermath of Coruscant's attack. HoloNet cameras broadcast proceedings live across the Republic. Palpatine intended to transform fear into renewed political unity exactly as he had countless times before. Instead, history took an entirely different direction. As the Chancellor prepared to address the Senate, hundreds of emergency transmissions suddenly interrupted every public display across the capital. Republic intelligence files, encrypted communications, financial records, recovered surveillance footage. One document after another appeared before millions of citizens simultaneously. The evidence did not conclusively prove Palpatine was Darth Sidious. But together it painted an impossible picture. Secret communications with Separatist leaders, unauthorized military directives, hidden financial networks, years of unexplained political manipulation. Shock spread through the Senate chambers. Confusion turned into outrage. Senators demanded explanations while security officers desperately attempted to terminate the unauthorized broadcast. At the center of the chaos stood Sasuke Uchiha. He had never intended to convince the galaxy through speeches. He simply forced everyone to ask questions that could no longer be ignored. Palpatine slowly rose from his seat. For several long seconds, he abandoned every pretense of surprise. The warm smile disappeared. The humble statesman vanished. Something infinitely colder looked across the Senate floor. The dark side erupted through the chamber like a tidal wave. Black robes swirled violently as crimson eyes burned with ancient hatred hidden for decades beneath the mask of democracy. Senators screamed while Jedi rushing into the chamber instinctively ignited their lightsabers. Clone guards froze in stunned disbelief. Even experienced politicians struggled to comprehend the impossible transformation unfolding before their eyes. Palpatine no longer cared. The deception had reached its end. Standing before the entire Galactic Senate, before Jedi Masters, clone commanders, government officials, and billions watching across the HoloNet, the Chancellor finally embraced the identity he had concealed for a lifetime. Darth Sidious had revealed himself to the galaxy. The revelation of Darth Sidious before the entire Galactic Senate shattered the Republic more completely than any Separatist invasion ever could. Senators who had devoted decades to serving Chancellor Palpatine watched in stunned disbelief as the kindly statesman they had trusted became a figure wrapped in black robes, his face twisted by years of dark side corruption no longer hidden behind carefully maintained appearances. HoloNet broadcasts transmitted the moment to thousands of systems before emergency officials could terminate the signal. Across the galaxy, clone officers froze beside their command consoles, Jedi generals stared in horrified silence, corporate leaders abandoned carefully rehearsed political statements, and even surviving Separatist commanders struggled to comprehend the impossible truth. The Clone Wars had never truly been a war between the Republic and the Confederacy. It had been a war conducted by one man against an entire civilization. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the Force itself seemed to tremble. Sidious abandoned every remaining disguise. Crimson lightsaber blazing to life, he unleashed a storm of Force lightning that ripped through the Senate chamber, hurling massive repulsor platforms through the air as senators fled in panic. The elegant political arena transformed instantly into a battlefield. Jedi Masters ignited blue and green blades while clone guards instinctively attempted to shield civilians from the collapsing chamber. The centuries-old institution that had governed the Republic now became the arena where its greatest deception finally unraveled. Sasuke stood unmoving amid the chaos. He had crossed dimensions seeking only his own path, yet fate had placed him at the center of another world's greatest tragedy. The Sharingan observed every movement with perfect clarity. Sidious attacked like no shinobi Sasuke had ever encountered. His lightsaber strikes flowed together with devastating force-enhanced speed while invisible waves of telekinetic power transformed the Senate itself into a weapon. Massive platforms crashed together with enough force to destroy armored vehicles, and torrents of Sith lightning illuminated the chamber like artificial storms. Yet Sasuke had spent his entire life surviving opponents who should have been impossible to defeat. His body moved almost instinctively. Susanoo burst into existence around him, the enormous spectral warrior catching an entire Senate platform before it crushed dozens of fleeing senators. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber as the translucent armored guardian effortlessly hurled thousands of tons of debris aside. Clone troopers who moments earlier had prepared to fire upon the mysterious shinobi instead found themselves protected by the very being they had once been ordered to capture. The battle became unlike anything recorded in Jedi history. Blue lightsabers, crimson lightning, and violet chakra illuminated the Senate dome while the Force collided against powers born in another universe. Sidious's precognition allowed him to anticipate nearly every conventional attack, but the Sharingan read subtle muscular movements before they became strikes. Force pushes met Susanoo's colossal shield. Amaterasu's black flames consumed fragments of shattered Senate platforms before Sidious extinguished them through overwhelming dark side energy. Neither combatant held an easy advantage. Each forced the other to continually adapt. Watching from the edge of the chamber, Anakin Skywalker felt the foundations of his entire life collapsing. Everything Sasuke had warned him about now stood before his own eyes. The father figure he had admired for years was the Sith Lord responsible for the war. The Republic he had fought to defend had been manipulated from within. The Jedi had failed to see what had been hidden in plain sight. His fear, his anger, his grief over Padme, every insecurity Palpatine had carefully nurtured, had all been tools. Obi-Wan placed a steady hand upon Anakin's shoulder. For the first time since becoming a Jedi, Anakin realized his former master had never sought to control him. Obi-Wan had simply feared losing another brother. The choice before Anakin remained exactly as difficult as it had always been. Only now he possessed the truth. Without hesitation, Anakin ignited his lightsaber. Not beside Palpatine. Beside the Jedi. That single decision changed galactic history forever. Sidious immediately understood the future had escaped him. Order 66 remained ready. The clone inhibitor chips still existed. Yet the command relied upon absolute authority. With his identity exposed before the galaxy, countless clone commanders hesitated. Many refused verification requests. Others demanded confirmation from the Senate. ARC troopers questioned encrypted transmissions that no longer aligned with public events unfolding live across the HoloNet. Captain Rex delayed execution pending direct clarification from General Skywalker. Commander Cody ignored automated priority signals while awaiting Obi-Wan's orders. Across hundreds of battlefronts, precious minutes passed. Those minutes saved thousands of lives. Some inhibitor chips activated. Others malfunctioned. Many clone officers resisted long enough for Jedi healers and Republic scientists to discover the chip's true purpose before complete activation could occur. Entire legions turned upon one another as programming battled years of earned loyalty. It was not a perfect salvation. Many Jedi still fell. Many clones died fighting against commands they never wanted to obey. But the massacre Sidious had designed never reached the scale history had once demanded. The Sith Grand Plan broke apart. Across the Outer Rim, Separatist commanders intercepted broadcasts exposing Sidious's deception. Numerous worlds surrendered immediately rather than continue serving a war orchestrated by the very enemy they believed they opposed. Others declared independence from both governments. Trade Federation executives attempted to flee before Republic investigators seized their assets. Crime syndicates quietly abandoned long-standing contracts as galactic politics descended into unprecedented uncertainty. No faction escaped unchanged. Within the Jedi Order, painful truths emerged almost as quickly as celebration. They had become soldiers instead of guardians. They had allowed political necessity to replace compassion. They had mistaken certainty for wisdom. Before the surviving council, Yoda admitted that the Order had spent years searching the Force for answers while overlooking simple truths directly before them. The arrival of one outsider had revealed flaws that centuries of meditation had failed to uncover. Sasuke listened without judgment. He understood better than anyone that institutions rarely fell because of one villain alone. They collapsed because countless good people ignored uncomfortable truths until someone forced them into the light. The Senate soon faced its own reckoning. With Palpatine imprisoned after an exhausting combined effort by Jedi, clones, and Anakin himself, senators demanded that Sasuke accept supreme authority until stability returned. Many argued that only someone untouched by galactic politics possessed the independence necessary to rebuild civilization. Others believed his power alone made him the obvious protector of the Republic. The proposal reminded Sasuke too much of every mistake he had witnessed in his own world. Power had always promised peace. Madara had believed it. Pain had believed it. Danzo had believed it. Even Sasuke himself had once believed that becoming the sole ruler of the shinobi world could erase endless conflict. He knew better now. Standing before the assembled Senate, Sasuke quietly refused. He declared that no single warrior, Jedi, Sith, politician, or hero should ever again possess enough authority to decide the fate of billions. Peace enforced through fear eventually became another form of tyranny. Lasting peace required people willing to challenge those who claimed absolute certainty. For perhaps the first time in generations, the Republic truly listened. Months passed. The Clone Wars ended not through total victory but through exhausted compromise. The Confederacy dissolved after widespread negotiations replaced military occupation. The Republic surrendered many emergency powers accumulated during the conflict while independent systems received greater autonomy than ever before. The Jedi Order withdrew from direct military command, returning gradually to its original purpose as protectors rather than generals. Clone veterans earned recognition as individuals instead of property, beginning lives they had never expected to possess. The galaxy remained scarred, but it finally possessed the opportunity to heal. As for Sasuke, he never sought fame. He departed Coruscant quietly aboard a modest transport accompanied only by the stars. Legends spread faster than the man himself. Some described him as a warrior untouched by the Force. Others claimed he had been an ancient guardian awakened from forgotten history. Children imagined the mysterious swordsman who defeated Sith Lords without becoming one. Even the surviving Jedi struggled to define exactly what he had been. Yoda eventually found the closest answer. The Force did not guide him, the ancient master reflected during meditation. Instead, he reminded the Force that destiny is strongest when choice remains free. Far beyond the outer rim, the dimensional gateway stabilized where reality had first been torn apart. Scientists, Jedi scholars, and explorers carefully studied the phenomenon, believing the bridge between universes had finally become dormant. Then new distortions appeared. Not toward Sasuke's world. Toward somewhere else entirely. Unknown stars shimmered beyond the dimensional veil. Strange energy signatures unlike chakra or the Force pulsed through the widening fractures. For the first time since the birth of the Republic, the galaxy understood a truth more unsettling than any Sith prophecy. It had never been alone. And now the barriers between realities had begun to weaken forever. As the fires of the Clone Wars slowly faded across the stars, the galaxy found itself standing at the beginning of an entirely different future than the one history had once promised. The Republic had survived, but it could never again pretend its institutions were beyond corruption. The Jedi Order endured, yet its greatest masters carried the painful understanding that wisdom meant questioning themselves just as fiercely as they questioned others. Millions of clone troopers finally earned the freedom to choose their own destinies, no longer treated as expendable tools in another man's grand design. Countless worlds that had spent years destroying one another now faced the far more difficult challenge of rebuilding trust. At the center of those impossible changes stood a warrior who had never sought to become a hero. Sasuke Uchiha had arrived in the Star Wars galaxy as a stranger carrying nothing except his sword, his eyes, and the painful lessons of his own broken world. He never fought for the Republic. He never fought for the Separatists. He never fought for power itself. Instead, he forced an entire civilization to confront truths it had refused to acknowledge for generations. By refusing every opportunity to become another ruler, another conqueror, or another savior, he ultimately accomplished something even greater. He reminded billions that lasting peace cannot be imposed by strength alone. It must be chosen. Even the Force seemed changed by his presence. For thousands of years it had guided the destinies of Jedi, Sith, kings, soldiers, and ordinary citizens alike. Yet Sasuke came from beyond its reach, carrying a will so powerful that even prophecy could not fully account for his choices. Rather than bending him to its design, the Force adapted, acknowledging that destiny itself could be reshaped by someone who existed completely outside its eternal balance. Far beyond the Outer Rim, scientists and Jedi continued studying the stabilized dimensional corridor where Sasuke had first entered the galaxy. At first it appeared quiet, almost dormant. Then faint distortions began appearing once again, leading not toward the shinobi world, but toward countless unknown realities waiting beyond the veil of existence. Perhaps Sasuke had never been an isolated miracle. Perhaps he had only been the first. And somewhere beyond the stars, other legends had already begun taking their first steps toward a galaxy far, far away.
The multiverse doesn't end here. New invasions, new empires, and new worlds collide daily. If you enjoy deep cinematic, what-if scenarios like this, subscribe and join Multiverse Galaxy if